Hello, everyone, and welcome to Expedition 105. I'm Janine Stanley, your Aira Explorer Community Manager, and I am joined tonight by, let's see, what is he going to be tonight? We're working, so he might have to be the boss. Ryan Bishop.
Frightening.
Hello, Ryan.
Hello, everyone. I'm super glad to be here to talk about Aira in the workplace, one of my most favorite topics to discuss, and I look forward to helping you guys with Aira at work.
Awesome. And our agent representative with us is Emma Vincent. Hello, Emma.
Hello.
And we have our tour guides tonight, Hope Paulos.
Hello.
Hope, and Tiffany Manosh.
Good evening, everybody.
And we have special guest lecturers tonight on the expedition. This is like one of those Victorian, expedition sessions where you have your guest lecturers. And tonight we have Paul Schroeder from Aira. Hello, Paul.
I'm all packed up with my rucksack and ready to go.
All right, sweet. And we have Stacy Cervenka. Hello, Stacy. And Stacy may be temporarily muted. However, we're going to talk tonight about Aira in the workplace. And there's Stacy.
Okay.
There we go. All right.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. No worries. So, as I said, we're going to talk about Aira in the workplace tonight. And this is an issue obviously near and dear to my heart because before I came to work at Aira, I actually did have Aira as a workplace accommodation. I used it primarily for travel, but there are many, many ways to use Aira. And one of the first things we're going to talk about with Stacy is you getting Aira before you even get a job, talking to your vocational rehabilitation counselor here in the US about how to get Aira as an accommodation, as something in your plan for getting that job. And we are also now joined by Stacie Gallegos, who is another one of our intrepid tour guides. Hello, Stacy. So we have Stacy and Stacy. Awesome. So first of all, though, Stacy C, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and where you are right now in terms of your professional accomplishments? Because you've got quite a number of them.
Sure. Well, I have been involved in disability advocacy and blindness advocacy for about 20 years as a member of the National Federation of the Blind. I've served as the chair of NFB's Blind Parents Group. I've also worked in the Office of United States Senator for 5 years, where I handled a number of issues, including disability rights, transportation, vocational rehabilitation, labor issues. I then worked for the California Department of Rehabilitation, where I was a government program analyst, and I kind of served as a conduit between the department and the Blind Advisory Committee, Deaf and Hard of Hearing Advisory Committee, and some others. And then I worked as the executive officer of the California State Rehabilitation Council. Most recently, I worked as a director of public policy for the American Foundation for the Blind. And currently I live with my family in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I am the public policy and planning consultant at the Nebraska Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired, among other things right now. So I've worked a lot on, particularly on issues that affect vocational rehabilitation, labor, transportation, and parenting with a disability are kind of the main topics I've worked on.
Wow, that covers just about everything we've covered, I think, so far on Aira, actually, and our expeditions. So now let's say, Stacy, that I am someone who is starting out with vocational rehabilitation.
Mm-hmm.
I have lost my sight. I let's say, have gone through all my basic rehabilitation, and now it's time to get a job. I really want Aira to, as a part of my job search, and Paul will tell us a little bit about why here in a minute, but how can I get Aira as an accommodation? How can I even start that conversation with a rehabilitation counselor?
Sure. Well, as you know, vocational rehabilitation, the whole goal of VR is to help people with disabilities get jobs, to enter the workforce, to remain in the workforce, and to advance within the workforce. And so when you sign up for VR, you're essentially telling them, I am committed to going to work. And one thing that's really important is, I think a lot of people, when they sign up for VR services, they kind of have this idea of, well, let's just see like what I can get, how they'll help me. You really need to take charge of your VR plan, which is called an IPE, an individualized plan for employment. You need to be your best advocate. Your counselor likely has, possibly 100, 120 people on their caseload. You have yourself. So you need to be extremely active in making sure that you get what you need. If that means you have to call your counselor every day and send an email, and show up at their office, then that's what you got to do. So often I hear from so many people that, I tried getting this, but my counselor never called me back, or I mentioned it and my counselor never brought it up again. You need to take the reins and make it happen for you. If you feel you need Aira, then you need to make it your goal to get Aira. As you know, that you have an individualized plan for employment. And in that plan, you'll put your employment goal, and then you'll put all the services and tools and technology that you need in order to reach that goal. And so if you feel that in order to get the training that you need in order to do your job, whether that's college, vocational and technical school, certain certifications, certain types of training, or you're going to need Aira on the job, you need to ask for that to be a part of your individualized plan for employment. Now, some obstacles you may run into is some VR counselors may not be familiar with Aira and understand what it really does. They might think of it as this newfangled piece of technology that they heard about once at a conference, but they really don't understand how people use it in their day-to-day lives at work. And there's also sort of this idea, I think, that some new technology is a luxury, that, okay, you want Aira. Why can't I just get you a magnifier? Or, why can't I just, there's not really this understanding of that Aira is now an important tool that blind people need in their tool belt in order to, get and remain employed. So you need to know that that's kind of often where they're coming from. The other obstacle you may run into is that often state rehabilitation agencies have certain types of devices that they can buy, certain services that they can purchase. Sometimes it's called a price schedule. Sometimes it's it's got different names, but if Aira is not on their price schedule, they may not know what it is. So the first thing you need to do is to convince them that you need it. You need to be able to justify why you need Aira. Specifically, you can't just say, I need Aira in order to get a job. You need to say, I need Aira because I need to get a job, or, I need to work in a science lab in college, and I really need Aira in order to navigate the lab and, give me feedback on test tubes or whatever. So you need to give them very specific reasons why you need Aira. You need to be able to say, I work in an office setting and I'm asked to travel a lot. When I travel in unfamiliar places, I really need Aira there in case I get turned around, or in case there's no other pedestrians around and I need assistance, like locating a building or traveling through an airport. So you need to, first of all, you need to be really specific for what you want it for. Second of all, if your counselor says that, no, I'm sorry, we can't do this, the next thing you need to do is put it in writing. You need to put your justification in an email so that it's written in email form. If you can, CC their supervisor. Or if you know who their supervisor is, so that it's in written form, and ask for a written response. That way, there's no he said, she said, oh, well, I didn't understand what it was or why she wanted it. Like, have it there in writing. If there's still a no, what I often tell people is you want to have a great relationship with your rehab counselor. My training is I'm a certified rehabilitation counselor. You want to have a great relationship with your rehab counselor. However, it is much more important that you get what you need than that your counselor thinks you're a nice person, or that your counselor thinks you're a pleasant person. So while you always need to be, professional, if you need to continue fighting for what you need to continue fighting for, this is your life. This is your career. You need to go ahead and do that. So if you are told no after you put it in writing, I would say, okay, I need to have a meeting with my counselor supervisor. Ask to have a meeting with the supervisor. At this meeting, you may consider bringing an advocate, whether that's from a consumer organization such as NFB or ACB. There's also a great program that a lot of people don't utilize called CAP, the Consumer Assistance Program, or the Client Assistance Program. Every state has a client assistance program. So if you Google your state, Montana, vocational rehabilitation, client assistance program, it will show up for you. And they provide free advocacy. So you can ask for a CAP advocate to come to your next meeting with your counselor or with your counselor supervisor. I really feel that CAP is often an underutilized service. So calling CAP and finding out, like, hey, can I get someone to come with me to this next meeting? If you feel that you're comfortable going to the meeting with your counselor supervisor on your own, that's great. That's probably what I would do. If you continue to be told no, again, then I would definitely utilize CAP. I would definitely take it to CAP. And at this point, though, you really need to be able to show that this is what you need it for, and why something else won't work, or at least something else, why this is the most efficient option. Because often, too, people don't understand how technology works. Like, they'll think that you can use a handheld magnifier to read 100 pages, where, that's really difficult for most people. Like, yes, they might be able to use a handheld magnifier for something, but not to read something very long. So similarly, they may think, oh, well, she doesn't need Aira because she has JAWS or something. So what you need to show them is that even though you have technology that does other things, you still have a need for Aira. So I think the number one thing is you really have to go into it with the mindset of, this is your plan. This is your career. This is your shot. If you need Aira, you need to make that happen for yourself. You need to, ask your counselor, put it in writing, take it to their supervisor, take it to CAP. If Aira is not on the price schedule, that is something that most agencies can do. It may not be on the price schedule now, but generally it's something that they can work with Aira to do. And I'm sure that Aira would probably be more than happy to get themselves onto your state VR agency's price schedule.
Absolutely. And so, Ryan, being our account manager, can talk a little bit about that here in a bit. But yeah, that is absolutely something that we can do and have done with a couple of states already.
And so if that's the thing that, they're not on our list of vendorized providers, then I'm sure Aira will be happily fill out the necessary forms and do what they need to get vendorized. The other thing that I would suggest possibly doing, in some states, there are very active state rehabilitation councils, and there are active, I know in Florida or in California, we had a very active blind advisory committee. And approaching those committees and saying, coming as a member of the public and saying, I really need Aira. Here is why I need it. I'm having a difficult time getting it. Someone on the committee may take up your, say, oh, wow, this is a really, difficult situation. We need to take this up. So that's certainly another thing you could do. Another thing a lot of people don't realize is that you can actually write your own individualized plan for employment, IPE. You can write your own IPE and bring it into your counselor. So if you are currently in the process of writing or updating your IPE, write your own and include Aira. A lot of it comes, I think, often as people with disabilities, we're often told that whether it's outright or by implied, that our needs are burdensome or that we're asking for too much. And what I often tell people is, if you need something and you need it to get your job done and to remain employed, it's not too much. So don't, you are your number one priority.
Great advice. Now, Stacy, let's say, because I'm sure there are a number of folks out there in our audience who are vocational rehabilitation counselors, maybe VRTs, anyone in that position. What if you are advocating for a client who may want or need a job, or you're talking to an employer, and Aira is one of the things that you would like that employer to investigate? What are some strategies to deal with that? Because, gee, we could just hire you a reader. We could have a coworker do that for you. There's a volunteer organization that does that, right? What are some strategies to kind of combat that with the employers?
Well, I think, again, it's all about justifying and saying, okay, do you really want to pay a reader, 20 hours a week, or, with benefits or whatever that comes with, when I may not need them all the time? I mean, often I know for me, when I worked in offices, sometimes you do need a reader intermittently, and they'll hire someone, again, like 20 hours a week, and half the time they're not really doing anything for you because you may not have something for them to do. So using Aira is a lot more efficient because you can use it when you need it, and you're not obligated to try to find work for the agents to do. You're not, I know for me, I've often had readers like, okay, I have her for 4 hours today. What can I have her do? And sometimes that's a waste of their time. It's a waste of your time. So with Aira, it's really, you can use it as you need it or not. So I think that's a huge thing. I think it's also, if you have a lot of travel in your job, it's a way of saying, look, with Aira, I can do this independently. You don't need to pay for a reader or driver, or, I can, navigate this much more easily. So I think really being very specific. You guys, I apologize. We just had a grocery delivery, so I'm sorry if it sounds a little loud on my end.
No worries.
So I think, first of all, it's being very specific. And then it's also really being willing to answer their questions about why other things simply won't work. Because I think a reader is the number one thing that often gets kind of bandied about. It's like, well, do you want to pay someone 40 hours a week to maybe do 10 hours a week of work for me? And like, it's inconvenient to me, it's inconvenient to them. So I think a lot of it is, working with your HR. I know that someone's going to talk about this, about confidentiality issues. That's, it's not my wheelhouse. I don't know as much about how to handle that, issues of confidentiality and security. But as far as just letting your employer know why you need this, specifically why you need it, and why other things won't work, and being willing to go through all the other techniques with them and explain in a polite, professional way why that might sound like a good idea, but actually doesn't work. And the other thing too that I thought about, and this is kind of, I was talking to a friend last night about this. One thing Aira may want to consider at some point is offering like a 3-year plan so that VR agencies can purchase it for clients, kind of like, they purchase a Braille display, they purchase a JAWS, and they know that that's going to last someone several years. Where if a VR counselor could, often it's difficult to continue getting VR to pay for services. VR agencies can provide job retention services, but many of them don't or won't. And so instead of people worrying about, okay, I have to call my VR agency every year and try to open a new job retention case, if it was something where they could buy something kind of in the vein that they do with like a large Braille display, okay, we bought this one thing, it'll last them 3 to 5 years or something. So that's, I think employers and Aira really being able to talk with one another and maybe have it about how do we get to yes? Like, how do we get it so that, did my son just come in the background and like make a face? He probably did. Okay.
Hi, Stacy's son.
Was he wearing clothes? No. Okay.
Oh, the joys. Oh, the joys. That's all right. I have a cat who Zoom bombs, so I'm, yes, I'm empathetic, definitely. Well, this is excellent information, Stacy. Now, if anyone happens to have any questions out there on YouTube, you can put them in the comments. You can also put them in the chat. We're not going to take them directly at this point in time, but we will be able to get them to Stacy because she's got a bit of a hard stop here to get to another meeting.
You have a few Q&As, so I will write these
great.
up for you and get those out to Janine to get to you.
Super. And we will get those to you, Stacy. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight and for really getting us started kind of on the right foot of being your own best advocate.
Well, thank you so much for all you guys are doing. And I love Aira, used it many times, got me out of a lot of jams. So
yay. Outstanding. Thank you so much and enjoy those groceries.
Oh, we will. Okay.
Great. Well, I'm going to switch over here a little bit to Ryan, who, you're our financial guy. You are the Explorer account manager. So have you done yearly subscriptions to Aira. Is that something that is possible? Is it doable? What can...
So I'm going to preface this by answering a question from Chris Cook. So Chris Cook asks, and I'll read this out loud. Because I did tell you I'd answer it live. A rule: my agency does not pay for subscriptions for clients because things are paid for by an agency credit card. How are subscriptions handled when working with VR agencies? So Chris and to everybody else, when it comes to businesses and when it comes to VR agencies, we are able to work with them to do annualized subscription plans. So how this works is the employer or the agency would contact Aira, and we would set them up an invoice for the subscription in question that they would like to purchase for you. We are able to provide them any paperwork they do ask for, and we are able to buy those and get those set up for you. We are, for work, we are able to do this on an individual basis, or we can set this up as an access plan for your work as well. So we do have multiple ways of being able to get companies who maybe aren't able to pay per month. Believe me, we have a lot of companies who do not do it per month. We have a lot of companies who only use company credit cards. We have some who don't use credit cards. So we can definitely work with your company to figure out the payment. And ultimately, at the end of the day, all you have to do is contact us and open that discussion, and we will find a way that works for your company to be able to get you the access that you need to Aira.
Great. And we are also going to talk a bit, Ryan, about how this works in other countries, and particularly because this is what we have the expertise on tonight, Australia. So you are the man to talk about the National Disability Insurance Scheme, NDIS, in Australia.
Absolutely. Correct. So each process kind of works the same way. Now, there are various ways to work with the National Disability Insurance Scheme. I will not name all of them here for the fact that it does get complex, but the two main ways that we have seen it is either by you paying Aira and getting reimbursed by the National Disability Insurance Scheme, but the one that we are able to help with ultimately is getting them a invoice in Australian dollars for you to get your plan paid for, or for your company to get your plan paid for through Aira. So kind of along the same premises as the United States, you would contact us or have your company contact us, preferably they would have all of their information, and so we would want to speak with them so that way we can get it done quicker and don't have to go through so many jumps, but whatever works. And we are flexible. So we will work with you to get not only the service for that annualized service or for however long your company wishes to get your plan for, and get you all set up and make sure that you have the access that you need to be able to use Aira. So no matter whether you're in the United States, no matter whether you're in Australia, you know what, I'll just preface this by saying, no matter where you're using service in all the countries we are launched, we can work with you to make sure that you can get the instant access to information that you need.
In your local currency.
Correct,
which is fantastic. So we're going to move now to Paul, who has his rucksack on. So we'll have him pull up his lecture chair here. And so Paul, we have a great feature for job seekers, right? The Aira Job Seekers Plan. So let's talk about this plan a little bit.
We sure do, Janine, and thanks for mentioning that. And I also want to loop back a little bit to some of the rehabilitation discussion as well. But let me start with job seekers. We launched this program a year and a half, two and a half years ago. It was in February. And the idea was to provide minutes for Aira users, Aira explorers, not charged against their account, who were using Aira to seek employment. That might mean navigating a website to look at jobs. That might mean going through an application online or otherwise and filling in the information, particularly where inaccessibility was an issue. Might mean checking out printed material, including your own resume or the application that you filled out, to make sure that it visually looks the way you want it to, or the way you think it should. That's a really important task. And when we would ask people on the job seeker program, how did they use Aira? So frequently it came back that people said it saved me hours of time fiddling with my resume, trying to get things to visually work. Because I think those of us who screen read, and even people who are using low vision techniques, sometimes find that it is simply faster when you can see visual alignment, bolds, and other things that extraneously get into the middle of a document, and you can see those in a larger view that comes not from a screen reader or a magnification device. There's lots of good ways. I'm not saying people can't format excellent, wonderful docs without the assistance of someone who can see. I'm just saying that for some of us, and I will be one of them, it does speed things considerably. So yes. A lot of people used Aira in that way. A lot of people used Aira for tests that might be on an employment website that they had to get through. In fact, one of the seekers contacted us recently to say, I had a horrible time with the not the agent, but with the test that the employer was using. It turns out that the test was screwed up, and they hired me because I had done better than it appeared because the test was the problem. Anyway, that was a great outcome. Somebody who reported back to us that they found the job. Well, Job Seeker is still here. It is now available as an access offer for anyone who needs it. And as with other access offers, you can make use of that for a 30-minute period to, I believe that's the period, to work on anything related to finding a job. And so that might mean navigating websites. It might mean looking at applications. It might mean checking your clothing if that's something that's important to you, or it might mean navigating to the job site itself if you're wanting to make sure that you get to the interview and you feel fresh and not stressed because you were trying to battle as to which entrance in the building you were supposed to go into. And I will say now, in these days of social distancing and entrance changes, it's even more important than ever to have a plan for how you're going to deal with visual signage that nobody thought to make accessible, whether it's for cueing you to which entrance to go to, or navigating you perhaps through a lobby that is no longer has a personnel there to get to a entry point into that building. So and lots of things are even now than they would have been when we launched this program.
Right, and elevator restrictions are a really big deal right now. Usually only 2 people in an elevator. In many buildings, depending on the elevator, it may even be only 1 person. So,
and we've even had people show Aira in the interview. Less of that than I would have thought, but some where if somebody is challenged about how they're going to handle handwritten material or other visual material that isn't possible to make accessible, or isn't or probably doesn't convert very well, or is a sign that you can't see from that you can't get to. We've had people showcase Aira as, here's how I will use this tool to address the challenge. And so it's a great way to show in the job interview itself that you are prepared with the tools you need.
Great. Well, let's loop back to that topic of rehabilitation and all that is associated with it. Let's hear your thoughts about that.
I thought Stacy was terrific. I thought everything she said was right on target. And I just want to re-emphasize some of those points. And that is that the individual must be in charge of your own destiny. So if you do need this tool, Aira or whatever it might be, you're the one that has to make the case. You're the one that has to convince the counselor. You're the one that has to show how it will be demonstrably part of your success, whether it's in seeking education or seeking specific job training. There's a couple things I would add to what she said about Aira. So certainly it would be I think, fair for you to, if your counselor is not familiar with Aira or not familiar with the concept, to say that this is not really different from hiring a reader, except that I'm hiring a really skilled reader, somebody who's already trained and knows how to work with people who are blind, knows how to be efficient at providing information. And so it's going to save me some time in that end as well. And unlike a reader, I only use it when I need it. And if I get distracted or if I have to take a call, the Aira is not just sitting there any longer, the reader is. And so it's a very efficient way to use that. The other thing I would say is for new job site orientation, if and when we get back to short-term youth employment, where summer employment or other employment for youth, Aira may be a brilliant tool for ensuring that somebody can navigate successfully for those first couple of weeks, maybe while they learn the site. Saving time, saving effort, meaning that maybe there isn't going to be a need to have a specialist with them if somebody does feel a need for that, of course, they can make that request. But even in that case, maybe Aira provides that nice fill-in for when they run into a circumstance they weren't expecting or weren't sure of. And they can bring up Aira to find out about a barrier or a construction or a change in bus routes that they didn't anticipate.
Great. And we had a question from our audience here. How do you assure that your minutes are counted for the job seeker promo? There are a couple ways to do that. You can go to where it says call Aira with a free offer on your home screen. You can do that and choose the job seeker offer. Or you can let your agent know, right, Emma? You can actually let your agent know during the call that you would like this to be part of the job seeker promo and use that promo. And then for 30 minutes at a time, you were able to do that. And those minutes will not be counted against your.
And that really is such a great promo. I can't stress it enough. I want Suman, who is a founder of Aira, launched that promo. Some of us said, you can't do this, you shouldn't do this. And he said, I've got to do this. We have got to do something we've got to do our part to address this challenge that we know faces blind people in terms of finding employment. Aira isn't the solution for everything, but it sure can be one of the tools that somebody can use to equalize opportunity and provide a chance to get past some of the accessibility barriers and some of the visual information that is not accessible to us or not easily accessible. So I'm glad he had the foresight to do it. I think I know it has led to employment opportunities for people. And by the way, it's not just if you don't have a job, if you want to change jobs, if you want to upgrade, if you want to promote in your company, in your organization, or outside or elsewhere. Aira, again, great tool for using anything related to finding employment.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Janine, I just wanted to quickly jump in with this question because somebody, I think it's a really great question and a good topic to discuss really quick. We had a question from Eileen and she says, I am employed. How do I ensure that anything an Aira agent sees on a work laptop screen remains confidential? My job does not, so really she's asking, she says, my job is not high security, but still protecting confidential information is still important. So,
absolutely. Absolutely.
I think that's a very important question that a lot of employers might have. So,
yes, and we've seen that in a couple other folks have asked about this confidentiality and security. So, Paul, let's talk a little bit about this issue. And then Emma has done some research for us on this issue as well. So, let's talk about confidentiality.
Yeah, I'll say the basics, and I'm keen to hear what Emma has found as well. Aira, from the beginning, instituted a very strict confidentiality policy. We knew that individuals needed to be able to trust agents with sensitive information, personal or otherwise, and so our agents must sign and adhere to a very strict confidentiality policy of not sharing, and that is maintained. We never share videos, we never share sessions. Nothing that comes into Aira is is shared outside of Aira, and agents are prohibited from sharing any of the information that they may come across as they're working for an individual. And I would say that I don't think other systems necessarily have as strict a confidentiality requirement. So it is something to be certainly something to be aware of when you're using any kind of remote assistance. You should find out what
Yes.
the protections are.
Yes. And also the agents, when they are dealing with you, whether they are dealing with you through your phone or through Team Viewer on your computer, etc., or anything in your workplace, they are going through a VPN to get into their dashboard to see through your computer or your phone camera. So none of this information is on the agent's personal laptop, anything like that. So there is that buffer between you in the process as well. Now, Emma, let's see, do we have you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, awesome. To talk a little bit about security and how agents deal with employer requests for, security, because, there are probably some situations that we simply can't assure security on, but
Yeah, so one of the main things that we always keep in mind when anyone calls is that this is really a view into their personal life. So of course, it's like top secret information and stuff for people's works we keep extra safe, but everyone's information in general we treat with a lot of privacy, and we know that you guys are trusting us to help you in your homes and with your day-to-day activities, and we don't take that lightly. So we definitely make sure that we're using, like you said, different types of security measures to make sure that no information is stored. We sign privacy contracts, those types of things to ensure that we are just being the safest we can be. And we also don't have any sort of communication, even in between agents, with personal information from explorers. So those are just a few of the steps that we take in order to really make sure that everything is as private as possible. When people do have workplaces that are extra sensitive, maybe they work in a hospital or whatever the case may be, that is really up to their workplace to decide what is okay. But from our side, we are doing everything we can to ensure privacy and that nothing is, being viewed that shouldn't be viewed or something like that. And we also have the option to, let's say someone was doing something for work and they have to have a private conversation with someone for a moment, they can put their phone into the privacy mode that gives them secured privacy for just however long they need. And then we also, of course, just on a regular call, we work from private rooms in our houses or wherever people are working from. So we have that level of security on our side. No one's hearing what we're saying, no one's hearing what you're saying. And we don't store that information in a way that would be not safe either.
And I think we often forget about privacy mode. If we do have to have a conversation that doesn't involve the Aira call, there is a privacy button on your screen during the call. I believe it's toward the lower middle of the screen, I think, if I'm remembering the screen correctly. And so that button, we used to use that a lot when you were going into, say, a public restroom, and you're only going to be in there for a few minutes, and many people still do use it that way. But certainly for the workplace, to minimize, private conversations and things like that. But we have a feature that we've had for quite a while, but now you can do a little bit more with it. And that is our agents. We do record every call, and we do that for quality assurance and training purposes. And so we keep those recordings. We don't keep them indefinitely. And I know that people want access to their own recordings, but you also have the ability, and I will tell you, we don't have that access to your own recordings right now, and probably won't, because that opens up a whole lot of security issues. And what we do have, though, that can help you in your workplace is the ability to tell your agent, please do not record this call. And you can actually turn that off for all calls in your profile just by letting your agent know. Now we're working toward a way that you will be able to be in control of that from the app. We don't have that quite in place yet, but right now, if your employer says, well, you know what, you can't use Aira because that information's recorded and we don't want to deal with that, you can tell them, and you can certainly send them to us, and Paul will be happy to explain it. I will, any of our customer care team will, that you have the ability to have that turned off in your profile. And you can actually have two profiles. This is kind of an interesting thing. Let's say your workplace gets Aira for you as an accommodation. Yay, that's great. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Am I going to have like two phones now? No, you can actually have two different profiles from within Aira. You can have your regular personal profile with all of your information, or you can switch over to your work profile, which will have all of your employer information. And you'll obviously be logging in from either an employer phone or an employer email to log into your work profile. So that's one great way to have all of your Aira in one place. Now, what do we do with all this wonderful access to Aira at work? What the heck are we doing at work with Aira? Well, let's ask our wonderful tour guides. And we're going to start. Oh, I'm sorry, Ryan.
There's one very, very quick thing that I do want to let you guys know too. When your workplace gives us a call, if they do contact us for any sort of invoicing or whatever not, should they need any sort of information that is for them to document, or for anything that they need from Aira in regards to whatever you need, we can get them that as well. So just when in doubt, feel free to give our customer care team a call, and we can answer any questions that you have, or your agents, for security purposes.
Absolutely.
And I'll just interrupt to say as I close that it is almost virtually anywhere that Aira is currently available, there is some concept of reasonable accommodation to support employment. In the US, it's the ADA, and other countries, there are other laws, but it is a very commonplace thing. It is certainly acceptable for you to ask. You shouldn't be fearful of asking for an accommodation, Aira or otherwise. And so, as I said, in the US, the term would be a reasonable accommodation for employment.
We also do have a white paper on security and privacy that we can provide to you. We're happy to do that if your employer needs that particular statement. Now let's go to, in our last little bit of time here, we'll go to our tour guides and find out. So talk to us, Tiffany, how have you used Aira at work, or how have you experienced other people that you work with using Aira in the workplace?
So I've been very fortunate. I work as an instructional assistant at American River College, and I actually got it as an accommodation. I went to our ADA compliance officer and had to demonstrate that this is what I would use it for. There's lots of times in the lab, I'm the only person in the lab, and I have to log on to a machine that others have logged onto, and the Zoom text doesn't launch until after I'm actually logged into the computer, or other people have set certain things on it so that Zoom text doesn't come on until afterwards. So by able to use Aira to have them look at the screen, have them help me navigate to switch users and then log in and get things up and running. Also, within the lab, we have a computer that shows when a student requests assistance from us, it'll show their computer number, and we have that laid out on a grid on the counter there, and the Aira agent is able to assist me by finding where that is and then directing me to that student's workstation. I then use Aira sometimes to read the instructions, read their screen, all sorts of different things within the lab there.
Oh, and have you used Aira for travel at all regarding?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So on my campus, there is constantly construction going on no matter where you are within the campus. And I go from the portables because we are in the midst of a new building, new STEM building. So we are out in the portables in the parking lot. on one side of the campus, and classrooms that I assist in are on the other side of the campus. And because of construction, you never know which route you're going to be able to take on any given day. So I definitely use Aira to get from one side of the campus to the other to assist with navigation, and it is so helpful.
Wow, great. All right, let's move on to Hope. How about you?
Sure. So I have a couple of jobs. The first one is at Humanware, and I really don't use Aira a lot for Humanware except to turn on the computer when it's acting crazy and not wanting to talk to me. But the other job that I do is I work as an instructor, as an assistive technology instructor at the Carroll Center for the Blind in Newton, Massachusetts. And so I work with kiddos between the ages of 2 and, well, not 2, but 5, I would say, and 21, 22. And they are kiddos and they tend to misbehave. And so I use Aira sometimes, again, with the parents' permission. I'll use Aira to monitor them. And the kiddos have no idea.
Now, that is a great point to bring up about the parents' permission. Was that something that came up in particular in your job? Or was that a requirement of, say, your employer to say, okay, we need to get the parents' permission before using, something like Aira?
It is. It was a requirement. Obviously, you have FERPA, free appropriate education. I can't remember what FERPA stands for. It's really sad being a teacher.
I read that recently, and I was thinking, what does that stand for? Someone out there will tell us, I bet.
But it's really important to get the permission of the people that you're recording. And oftentimes I'll tell Aira not to record the call because, again, we're dealing with some sensitive information and the students' names out there. You don't want that. So, yeah, it's. I mean, I would have asked the permission anyway.
It's a perfect example of using the please don't record in this case. Right. So I bet you have stories.
Oh, I do.
I can only imagine. So Stacy, what about you? What kinds of work-related tasks have you used Aira for? And Stacy.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Go. Yeah.
So, my husband and I, we have a small assistive technology training and consulting business, and Aira has really been a lifesaver for us with regards to the amount of paperwork that we have to do for our state rehab agency. Ironically, many of the forms that we have to submit or complete are not accessible. They're PDF forms that we, even with assistive technology, we struggle to access the information. So Aira is about efficiency. And so we've used Aira. I've used Aira to complete those forms. I've used Aira when I go out to deliver and set up equipment for some of our clients who are deaf-blind. I will use Aira to assist me, like when setting up a new computer. Pardon the robotic vacuum cleaner in the background. So, I've used Aira for that. Traveling is always something that I make it a point or feel that there's a need for Aira. So there's a lot of different things. I think one of the really cool things is when I have had to print off forms that require signatures, and then I need to scan them back in and send them back to the appropriate people. I have used Aira to assist me with finding the signature block so I can sign our names and get those turned in. I've used Aira for last week. We did online shopping, but when I've needed to look up something for a consumer that we're going to purchase some equipment for, And even though I have the skills to do this, maybe I want to do it quickly. I've used Aira for that. Or if I find a product and the description of the product is very vague, I can use Aira to get a better, more meaningful description of something.
Wonderful. Well, that is definitely a wide range of uses for Aira in the workplace. Now, I'm going to circle back to Emma because we had a question before the webinar about actually using Aira in a situation of really top security, like, say, a military base or working at a government agency that might have restrictions on using TeamViewer to help you with your computer. Or, we talked about not recording, but let's say, Emma, somebody can't load software onto their computer. How would you as an agent, work out helping them with something in that situation?
Definitely. So one way that we could assist would be if they're not able to download a program onto their computer, like Zoom or TeamViewer, which is quite common in situations like you described. One thing we can do is use the actual camera on the phone to point towards the computer screen itself and assist to give descriptions if there's something that needs a description, or to help in some rare cases if something is like a checkbox and we're not able to access the computer. Once in a while, we'll even do it the old-fashioned way of moving the mouse a little by little until we get it, which, sometimes desperate times call for desperate measures. So we do that and it's worked very well. Another thing that we could do is if it's not a website or a program or whatever that they need on their actual computer, let's say they need to research something for work, we would be able to do that on our side, on our web browsers as well. So there's a few different options. There's probably more than that I'm not thinking of at the moment, for different ways to assist with different computer-based tasks while at work if they work in a place where we're not able to remote into their computer. And then of course we can always default to just looking at the computer with the phone screen as well.
Oh,
the phone camera.
Now, I'm going to ask you the fun agent question here before we may actually have a few minutes to take some audience questions too.
Awesome.
But what are some really cool jobs that you have helped people out on? What are some kind of fun or things that you've heard agents do that really sound like cool jobs?
Oh, there's so many cool jobs that some of our explorers have. I think one of my favorites, just because I've always been curious, is one of our explorers has vending machines, and I've never seen the inside of a vending machine before. So that was fun, stocking the different snacks and sodas. I did get a little hungry, but no. And then I've also helped people in jobs that are in really unique and cool buildings. So it's been fun to walk through the hallways and see that type of stuff. But there's so many different jobs that everyone has. So there's not really one that sticks out to me as the coolest, because I just really am intrigued with everyone's different jobs that they have. But I have to say one was a fun one that was, like Hope was saying, with taking care of kids and to see help kind of watch to make sure that the kids were doing what they were supposed to do. It wasn't with Hope, but another person. And that was a really fun one. I think that one sticks out the most to me.
Oh, great. I know we have actual explorers who are vet techs, who work at zoos, who work at museums, things like that,
Yes.
which I always thought would be really, really fun and great. Okay, Ryan, so do we have any questions out there from our
We
audience?
do. We have a few. So from
Super.
YouTube, Ann V87 says, I'm currently employed, but looking at starting at least one, if not more, online businesses. Is there by chance a promo for that as I take the first steps to start them up?
Wow,
Great
funny
question.
you should ask. Well, yes, we do. Thanks to our partners at Intuit, we have the Intuit Small Business Offer. And this, again, is 30 minutes at a time that you can take advantage of as a small business person to do all those tasks that are related to getting your business started, whether that's help setting up your website, getting that to look nice with some of the website building tools, inventories of products. We have someone who, and I always think this is so cool when she talks about it. She has a nail color business, and she's one of the franchisors of this particular business. And Color Streak, I think, is the name of it. And she uses agents to help her sort her samples, help her do her online parties, for the products and things like that. So that promo is out there. You want to go to our free offers section again from the homepage, and you'll see the small business promo. There is a form there to fill out to tell us a little bit about your business and yourself. And then once you fill that out, when you call your agent, just say, I need to take advantage of the small business promo. And there are specific tasks. I don't know, Emma, if you want to talk about some of the tasks, if I missed anything that are covered, and maybe some that aren't covered under the small business promo.
Definitely. So one thing I just wanted to add is before you do call in with that, there's just a little bit of a form you have to fill out from Intuit. Then once you get that all taken care of, you can call in with your small business promo. So this is, like Janine said, is going to cover anything. If you have your own small business, basically anything that involves your business. So if you have documents that need to be formatted, if you want to go over your website to make sure it looks the way you want it to look, those things are all included. Things that wouldn't be included would be, let's say you worked for a bigger business and it wasn't your own small business, that would not apply. Let's say you, I'm trying to think of, there's lots of tests that wouldn't apply, but most of them are kind of intuitive. There's some of the confusion that we have with it also comes to if you just own a small business in general, then does that mean all of your calls are free? Nope, it's just the ones that have to do with your actual business itself. And let's say you have a office space, decorating that office space, as long as it has to do with your business, that would work. Let's say you're just in your bedroom, that maybe would not apply. So there's just, as long as the call is for the actual small business that you own, those are all things that would be covered. And you can definitely clarify all of this with your agent. So this goes for all of our promos. If you ever have questions on if something does or does not apply, definitely ask them, and they will be happy to give you a great answer on that. There's some confusion with some of our promotions. It's something that we answer all the time. So just feel free to ask, no harm in asking. And sometimes some people will ask about one promotion. Does this apply for this promotion? And we'll say no, but it actually applies for this other promotion we have. So that's always fun as well.
Absolutely. So that is a great list of things to think about. I was thinking we have a number of Mary Kay consultants. We have a number of these different types of businesses. What's the Scentsy? I was trying to think of the candle folks, the wax warmer folks. Yes, we have several of those as well, folks who work in that. And then folks who do their own artwork and things like that, who use our small business offer. So absolutely lots of good things there.
Right.
Anything else?
Yeah, let's get to a live question now. And then we do have one more text chat question I'll do at the very end.
Okay, super.
But I want to get to at least one live person today. So let's pick Jennifer. Jennifer Perry. Here we go.
Jennifer Perry from Australia, I do believe, right?
I believe so. We are asking to unmute
Yes,
you now.
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yes, we can,
Yes.
Jennifer. Hello
Excellent.
there.
I'll be really quick because I know it's almost 11. I just wanted to mention that in addition to the fantastic achievement around having access to Aira through the National Disability Insurance Scheme in Australia, there is also the possibility now, which wasn't available much before, if you are just employed and you need Aira as a workplace adjustment, there is the Job Access Scheme, and it is now possible to apply for Aira using all those self-starter techniques that Stacy was talking about earlier, justifying Aira and how you would use it in the workplace. I think I was either one of the first or the first person to be successful in Australia in actually having that approved for at least a year to begin with, to have Aira to use for all of the tasks people have mentioned so far in the workplace. So that's now possible as well, and it has just been so empowering and invaluable. And I encourage people to apply for that if they feel they need it in their work in Australia through that scheme, as well as for other uses in the NDIS, National Disability Insurance Scheme.
That's great. Now, Jennifer, what type of employment are you involved in? What is your job?
So I work for a company called Blind Citizens Australia, which is a non-profit organisation. Our mission is to empower, inform and people to conduct their lives for people who are blind or vision impaired. The work I do is a whole array of things, administrative work, so whether it be reports, meetings, email management, calls, membership inquiries. I do representations with consultations with stakeholders like transport, government departments, and a whole array of other things, technology as well. Do a bit of travelling for that when conditions are a bit more normal. Also quite a bit of remote working for that. Also do some advocacy work as well. So there's a whole raft of tasks that I do that come across as part of my job role.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations to you, and thank you so much. All right, so
We
Ryan,
do-
our last
Well,
question
we do
for
only
the
have
night.
one other hand raised. So it's Laura, and I know you've been waiting for here just a few minutes, and so you're the last
Yes.
one.
Hello,
and the
Laura. How are
only
you
other
this
hand,
evening?
So
Hello, my name is Laura Havard, and you kind of addressed it a little bit, and I'm going to re-put out on the table is you addressed the issue about, confidentiality. My bigger issue is the security. And I'm not talking about looking at the computer, but I work in a hospital, military hospital. And I know that I can tell them not to record, but I'm also concerned how it looks to others. Like, hey, they're taking pictures of the doors, and the doors have names on them. Or I think that's the biggest issue, and that would be the best thing to help. So how do you address that in terms of, I work in a big bureaucracy, so how things there's no final decision maker. So how would you kind of deal with that issue? I know you cannot record it, but also
Just seeing you walking around with your phone, I would imagine.
Well, but see, they're going to see me from the nursing station looking at the door, the numbers, and they're going to have names on it. Now that's
there's a few.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's throw the.
There's a
floor
few
open on
ways
this
I would
one.
address this. So, and being part of the process that kind of goes through this, I'll say a couple of things. Number one, I think, especially in this line of work, going to the powers that be there, there's always somebody who can make those final decisions, right? Especially if it is reported. And so doing those demonstrations, but I think ultimately we can provide even the white pages of security to certain businesses as well, as we were saying earlier, to assist with this security, especially in the workplace. So when you're going to get this as a workplace accommodation, one thing that we will provide is the various testings that we've done for security practices, the various things that Aira has had to go through to be able to show that we are safe with information and for security. And that for a business is huge to be able to show that,
Yes.
especially in those documents. Another thing is the demonstration, right? So one thing that really does help, especially is when you're going into this, is giving out demos to the workplace, especially to even some of the coworkers, just saying, hey, I have an agent on the phone who is, of course, this is secured by the place of employment. And this is what they do, and do a demo where the agent and maybe have the agent take a picture of one of those doors and just read it out loud, so that way everybody can hear what information you're receiving. It does provide, a little bit of comfort for some people I've found in this, and there's so many other ways to tackle this situation. Really depending on the place of employment, the workplace. Sometimes Aira can provide information. Sometimes it does take a demo. Sometimes it does take explanation, but I found that no matter how you go about it, there's always been a way to get through this, the level of security. And I think once people see that Aira, from an agent standpoint with the non-disclosure agreements to the security practices that Aira takes as a company, and then from seeing how Aira works for you, bundle that up into one whole package. And I think it really does work out very well for showing this.
Can I add?
Question?
Yes.
I follow. Is there a way we can say, I want you to read this, I want this not recorded, and I want you to read this part, but not anything else, so they're not
Absolutely.
auditorily saying it?
Absolutely. So always remember, and I'll say this, when you are on an Aira call, it is important to remember that you are in control of that call. And what you want the call to be and how you want the call to go and what you want the agent to do. So if you tell, and the agents are there to give that objective information, and the way we say it is, you're the brain of the call. The agents are just, the eyes of the call. So you're the one making those decisions. You're the one that's telling the agent, hey, read this, but not this. Hey, tell me this, but don't give me this information. Hey, if you see a personal name there or information, don't read it. Just so that way, and anything, and what you can also leverage as well is, and I'll touch base on this quickly because I know we're past time, but you can also leverage the notes feature for agents as well. So if you do tasks where generally every day you're reading documents where you need to know certain information like numbers, say, but there's also personal information on there. You can ask the agents to leave a note on your account that says, please skip over reading out loud any personal information and just give the numbers or the dates or the whatever you need off documents that are shown to me. And Emma can tell you more about what the agents see when this happens, but ultimately at the end of the day, when you get connected to an agent, they're going to see those notes and be able to provide that information for you and get you that access to information quicker.
Janine, can I?
Oh, certainly.
Janine, this is Tiffany.
Yes.
One thing I'll add to that is being able to provide demonstrations to multiple people really helps showcase what Aira can do and what can't do. That's what really helped to get it on my workplace for me, was really being able to show the powers to be that this is what I can do with it. This is how we can keep it safe and private. And the more demos you can give, the better your chances are of getting it there for you.
Right.
Great. Thanks very much.
Sure. And I'll give one more quick note here for you, Laura. Those photos that we're talking about where an agent says, can I take a picture of that? They're always going to ask you, can I take a picture? And those pictures, unless you ask for them to be saved, are going to be, they're gone. They are, I'm not going to say destroyed, they're erased after your call. So they disappear after the call unless you ask specifically for them to be kept. So that's another way to control things, but the demo is super powerful. I would like to thank everybody tonight. This has been a phenomenal webinar. We've gotten a ton of information. We appreciate all of you coming out there on YouTube and here on Zoom. Appreciate your questions. If you have questions for Aira, you can contact us at support@aira.io. That's AIRA.io. Or you can call our customer care team. And in the US and Canada, that number is 1-800-835-1934. The numbers for the other countries that we serve are on our website. I'd be happy to give you those if you want them, but that's a lot of numbers. So you can go to aira.io, that's AIRA.io, to look those up. Our final expedition in the series, Intrepid Trekkers, is next Thursday night, August 13th. And that particular expedition is going to involve Aira in higher education. Yes, it is time to go back to school, everyone. And we will be talking with some of our intrepid tour guides. I'd like to thank them tonight. We have Stacie Gallegos. We have Hope Paulos.
Thank you.
And we have Tiffany Manosh.
Thanks, everybody.
And you guys have no idea what a boss he is. He's not my boss technically, no. We are peers at
God for that. No,
ever. I know. I didn't, spill the secret. So anyway, for Ryan, I want to thank everyone for being here, and we will see you next week.
Thank you so much, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
And
everyone.
thank you, Emma. The
Thanks,
Aira
all.
agent
And
as
I
well.
forgot Emma. Oh,
She
my
forgot
goodness.
Emma. See, this is why I'm here, guys.
Oh,
This
see,
is why
I
I'm-
forgot Emma Vincent, our awesome agent. And I will definitely
Thanks for
edit the
having me.
recording, the podcast, which this will be up on the podcast probably either tomorrow or Monday at the very latest. So you can check that out at IRACAST, AIRACAST. All right, and Ryan has put the numbers up on the chat there for everybody to see. And that will be it for us.